Welcome back to An Idiot's Guide to Sports History. I'm your host, Kemdi Wosu, and today I'm joined by Spiffy Sean Stiles. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Um, I met you through a service that I started to use called Podmatch, which is a service that a lot of people use to find different kind of guests for podcasts, and I hope to be using that a lot more in the future. And I was really
It's
intrigued
a
by
cool
your whole
site.
story. Yeah. Um,
No, the podcast stuff for me was accidental. Most of my work is uh as an entertainer, has been in various other fields.
and of course, the main kind of entertainment that you did was previously was wrestling, which I found out a little through your bio, and then of course when you were talking about it previously to me, that's how where your kind of your name comes from.
Yeah, and it's kind of served me throughout my various hats that I wear. Well, not actual hats. I've still got good hair, but like the wrestling stuff and being, a performer, being out there learning about that craft. There's not a lot of things after that that ever really intimidated me. Once you're in your underwear in front of 10,000 people, like you don't worry about job interviews and things like that moving forward. So a lot of that when I started doing more music and performing there really translated because a lot of what I learned in wrestling, obviously it's a very unique skill set being a professional athlete on that level and having the presentation be as important as it is for the product to work. Taking some of those ideas to business or to music and those other kind of things works really really well because most of the other people don't do that. So it gave me a very unique presentation perspective and a different focus where even if I wasn't maybe the best guitar player, you put on a good enough show where it's style versus substance, and that's all from wrestling. So that remains part of my personality even today, even as I do voice acting stuff and commentary for wrestling and some things like that. I try to stay busy, so I'm all over the place as far as different jobs.
Now, in terms of specifically the name Spiffy, how did that come about? Because I know it is from wrestling, but like, how did you decide on Spiffy?
Oh wow, I didn't decide on it. When so I this is back in the Attitude Era. This is in the late '90s. I was barely out of high school, uh, and wanted to get involved in wrestling. So I've been a huge fan my entire life. Having an opportunity when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I found a local independent wrestling group that had a little television show on Saturday nights, like after WWE and ECW at that time, and then they had this local independent wrestling. So I found out where they were, went down to one of the shows, and uh, just basically asked, "Hey, is there anything I can do to help?" Now, back in the old days of wrestling, there was a big emphasis on paying your dues, which basically means you put your time in, you go through the sweeping the floors and setting up the ring and doing all of that sort of work. It helps you appreciate the journey to to being an actual wrestler. Um, So my journey involved a lot of that as well. I was a tackling dummy for a lot of training, but I learned how to be a referee and a ring announcer, and then did TV. So the spiffy thing comes from that. So back in the day, when like a veteran, like a well respected wrestler would give you a nickname, um, it would stick. It's out of respect and out of a lot. So you would not tell him no, whatever the boss wants to call me, that's what he's going to call me. So we were shooting an anniversary show for television. So and again, I'm probably 19 years old at this point. Like I just started college, broadcast communications. So it was great. It was on the job work. I went to like a men's warehouse and rented a tuxedo because I wanted to look really nice for the anniversary show. I thought I should be a little extra, which I often am. So when I got there and got all dressed up and everything like that, one of the old timers, one of the wrestlers said, "Well, don't you look spiffy?" Meaning just you look good, or you look, I was put together, and it just kind of it stuck with oh, there goes Spiffy Sean. Oh, you're looking spiffy, Sean. It They never let me stop doing it. So here we are 25 years later. And now my website is spiffyseanstyles.com. And now that's, the moniker that we have everywhere. And I've got AKAs. If I ever get arrested, it says known as the last of the old school, the modern day Renaissance man, Triple S, Spiffy Sean Styles. Hopefully they don't take me to jail.
That's cool. That's a really cool story. I really like those, like, kind of working your way up, and like those, like, paying your dues that everyone says, because that kind of differs, I think, in different sports too. Because, for example, at least, like, it depends on, like, I don't know about how wrestling is nowadays, but I know, like, for, like, in sport,
Different now.
yeah, I'm
But
assuming they
honestly,
just
that's college sports and the NIL. And so what they started doing was finding these blue chip athletes and just recruiting them, at this point, versus before, where it was a very guarded, very protected process. And it took years, like sometimes, decades, to get to the point where you were working on top. You were the main events, so there's a lot of struggle to get up that ladder. And now you have guys that debut, and less than 2 years later, they're in the main event at WrestleMania and those kind of things. But they've been groomed to be like that. And college sports is like that now. It's why you can have a guy like Kobe Bryant at 18 years old dominate a league. Baseball's like that. Hockey, the Penguins have an 18-year-old forward right now. So it's weird, to have, like, especially like our quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers is, I believe, 204 years old. So to have him, Aaron Rodgers, still in the league, where like literally some of these kids were like just born that are, his offensive linemen. It's crazy how sports has evolved to where that's even a possibility. Number one. Number two, it just, like, kids are getting better, stronger, faster, like faster. I mean, it's happening quickly. So, and a lot of that is, we know a lot more now about the human body and all that stuff than we did 15, 20 years ago. So we can take better care of ourselves, at least in theory, which should make things fun to watch. I'm a 90s kid. I miss the steroid era and stuff like that in baseball. Like, people were mad about that. That was fun baseball, you know. We
just
had
can't. I
shooting.
didn't live through that, of course, but like I just can't imagine people just saw, like, what's the Barry Bonds, and just thought, man, he's looking big today. All right, just
His
yeah, just keep
head
yeah,
grew 8
just
sizes. I mean,
yeah.
that's, but I mean, here's the thing. There was just a controversy in the NFL about the Hall of Fame, like, where uh, the greatest coach of all time, it didn't get voted in. The baseball home run hitter is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it's because there is this resentment. Haters, man. Haters will, in fact, hate, according to a wise poet of my generation, one Miss Taylor Swift. But it's, I understand the pettiness of it. Barry Bonds would have probably still hit 500 home runs and still been in the Hall of Fame and still been one of the best baseball players of all time. But he cheated, at least according to, to the baseball writers and the people that would vote him into the Hall of Fame. So as long as they are still around, there's hope. I mean, Pete Rose had wait till he died, but now they'll talk to him. Now that every single pitch you can have a side bet on DraftKings or FanDuel and bet on everything, and now it's all sponsored by DraftKings and all. They're not even pretending like it's not the thing anymore, which, that's nice. But we're also going to see a lot more of these scandals where, now that you can make prop bets on, I bet the pitcher walks this one guy or whatever like that. You don't think there's going to be a pitcher that's going to throw, you could throw a walk and you can kind of hide it there and stuff like that. It's already happening. There's already people getting kicked out of the league for sports betting on themselves. And it's going to get worse, as everything often does. Welcome to America. Cheers.
Well, cheers. Talking about all this kind of dysfunction and then trying to see if like you could also be successful throughout that dysfunction kind of with MLB, kind of an NBA and wrestling and all that kind of stuff. It kind of goes into the topic that I want to talk about today. Um, so the Los Angeles Clippers are basically known as I guess you could call them I think the term is redheaded stepchild to the Los Angeles Lakers. Or
Yeah.
at least they were seen as that for a long period of time. They lived in the same city, or they were in the same city. They played in the same arena up until recently, for almost 20 years. Um, and they had and still have no championships compared to the Lakers 17. And I feel like their entire history is full of just like a few bright moments and then just pain and dysfunction and just kind of these moments where like if I was a fan, I would not be a fan, to be honest. Um and I
They're
wanted
hard to
to
root for. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I
yeah.
understand. Listen, as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, I
Mhm.
understand. It's hard to love them sometimes, but you love them anyway.
And I wanted to do like a little like deep dive through kind of like their history of just like um their entire kind of like history of going through their dysfunction, as well as kind of covering the one owner that owned them for about 20, 30-ish years, and pretty much is not the full reason, but I would say a large percentage of the reason that they've been so unsuccessful throughout most of their period up until recently. So I'm going to start off with how I don't know if you know this, but the Clippers actually started off somewhere on the East Coast. They started off in Buffalo, New York.
Well, it'd make more sense because Clippers is a type of boat. I mean, it's a lake boat basically. It's a
Yeah. Well,
they
they
don't really
weren't the
do that
Clippers
on the
back
ocean.
then. They were the Buffalo Braves.
How long ago was that? Because I
In the
know the Atlanta
70s.
Braves.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not even
There were
that
a
long.
couple teams called the Braves actually, because I know Atlanta Braves. There was Washington Braves before they were the Redskins, and then now the football team, and now the Commanders, and yeah, a lot of
Absolutely.
Braves teams. But they they were a new kind of expansion team that launched in 1970, and things went well initially. And by initially, I mean like basketball wise initially, but fan wise, not so well, because
Right.
basketball wasn't seen as a priority in the area because they had two other sports teams, and they were owned by someone who owned these two other sports teams, and he wouldn't give them priority access, which was a problem because when you're trying to plan out the NBA schedule, you need to have like an arena that can like play games all the time, and you can't just like delay that kind of thing. And so there was this agreement signed with the Buffalo team that like the only way you can relocate or possibly sell your franchise is if attendance falls below a certain number. And they were like, okay, well, we'll have to figure this out. And they thought
Wait,
like, okay, let's,
isn't this the plot? Isn't this the plot of Major League? One of my favorite movies.
you know, I wouldn't be
It is. They
surprised if
tried.
that was
It's what it was. Where the Indians could move. It like she wanted to take the team to California. She hated Cleveland, so the team had to do bad. So the attendance dropped, and she could get out. That's literally the evil owner in Major League. It's
wow.
awesome.
Well, now we know where it comes from. But yeah, that's how that happened. And then all the while, the team's actually doing really good. They make the playoffs a few years. They have this rising star in Bob McAdoo. Um, they also have a really good coach, Dr. Jack Ramsey. But things still aren't going well. The team is constantly just hemorrhaging money because they can't like sell. They're not like able to sell like enough tickets because attendance is okay, but it's not like great, and like they couldn't obviously have the attendance and numbers they wanted because, you know, they don't have their own arena in the way that, like, you know, the Lakers had at one point at this time the Forum, or how the Sixers had the Spectrum Center, stuff like that. So they sell the Buffalo Braves in the 70s, in about 75, 76ers, to a man named John Y. Brown, who is more famous for his ownership of KFC. He actually bought it from the Colonel. And yeah, yeah.
The
Back when he
actual
was still
Colonel.
alive. Yes, the Colonel, that's, you know, in all the iconography. And so they sell it, and his goal is to actually try to relocate the team immediately. But the NBA puts a stop to this because they're like, we had an agreement. You cannot try to relocate this franchise unless your ownership, unless it falls, or the not ownership, it's the attendance
Attendance.
falls below a certain number. So he literally does what they do in Major League. He, like, makes it so they basically have the worst team ever. And he trades Bob McAdoo. Jack Ramsey sees what he's doing and he quits. He goes on to coach the Portland Trailblazers. McAdoo gets traded to another team. They have this great center that I think he only played 2 games for them, named Moses Malone. And
He
they
did all
traded
right.
him immediately after. Yeah, he was okay. I think
He did
he won.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
He landed on his feet somewhere else.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. And they get exactly what they want. You know, the team is terrible. People stop showing up, and they're eventually able to relocate. But it's in the weirdest way possible, because the owner of the Celtics was like kind of like a California mogul, and he wanted to bring the Celtics over to California. But because of the storied history of the Celtics by that point in the 1970s, there's no way that they would agree to move the Boston Celtics to California. It also just, like, wouldn't work because, you know, they're rivals, the Lakers. It would be weird to just have them there. And so the NBA agrees to this, where it's the only time they've ever done this too. They swap franchises. They have the owner of the Celtics and the owner of the Braves swap franchises, and the owner of the Celtics takes the Clippers, and he moves them over to San Diego, and they go from being the Boston, or not Boston, Buffalo Braves, to the San Diego Clippers. And that's, I guess, where the whole maritime kind of boating name comes from, apparently. And then the Boston Celtics owner, or the Buffalo Braves owner, gets the Boston Celtics, and he keeps them for a bit.
They traded teams,
Yeah, they traded
basically.
yeah, but pretty much. It's I don't think it's ever happened again in NBA history. It's a weird thing. It only happened one time. Um but so everything's going, like, really bad still because, like I said before, you to make your team the one of the worst attended in the league, you had to make them the worst team ever. Now that you've brought them over to San Diego, nothing has changed. They're still terrible.
Like, why?
Um
I understand wanting to move, but like, if how much effort it takes to suck as bad on purpose to suck that bad, like the conscious like effort that goes into that. You could, practice free throws. There, maybe work on your perimeter D a little bit.
An interesting side note too, Dr. Jack Ramsey, who was the coach of the Braves, left to go coach the Portland Trailblazers to their first title and only title in 1977, where their lead player was Bill Walton, who later had a falling out with the
Laker great.
Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, oh, oh no, he didn't play for. He did play for UCLA, but he was a Celtics guy.
There you go. Look,
Yeah.
you got it. That's what I meant.
And he eventually goes to the Clippers because his hometown is San Diego, and
Right.
so they trade him there, and everyone thinks, oh, okay, maybe he's gonna have a comeback, and he does have like a few good games, but he's never really able to take them to the playoffs, and they don't really have any success while he's there, and it just turns out to be kind of like a laughing stock in San Diego. Um, and then in '81, the infamous Donald Sterling buys the team. He was a kind of shady businessman, and he took out a full-page ad in the paper. I can't remember what San Diego paper it was, but he takes out a full-page ad, and he basically says, hey, guys, I'm going to do great for this team. I'm going to make sure that we stay here in San Diego. I love San Diego. And I promise that I'm going to do everything to make us a winning organization. And not even probably a month later, he's trying to relocate the team to LA, where he's from. And so things start to just kind of pile up over the years. He wants them to basically be the Showtime Lakers. But unfortunately, the Showtime Lakers are happening around this time. And they're not going anywhere. So he buys the team in '81, and from '81, '82 through about '94, they make the playoffs about 2 times. That's a 12-year span that they've made the playoffs. Not won a playoff game, or a playoff
Just got
series,
there.
or you just got there. And in that time, the Lakers won about 4 championships. So, yeah, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of dysfunction. I'd also like to talk about throughout this period, Sterling is also known for refusing to spend on facilities. You know, those things that athletes need to get stronger and also recover. He's cutting
Yes.
corners on staffing, on scouting. He's letting players leave to save money. For example, he let Bill Walton leave because he didn't want to pay him, and Bill Walton went to the Celtics and won a championship. Um, Constant coaching turnover. There's no like infrastructure. It's just like a bunch of moving pieces from like here to there as the years go on. And no culture, no long-term system. Everything feels just kind of off, and yeah.
You put that on the owner, not the coach, though? You had
Well,
me till then.
I feel like I think a lot of coaches have like bad. I think you could blame it on the coaches to some degree. But then again, when everything is moving around so much, you never know, because like I only say this because like there are certain players who did better on other teams. There are certain coaches who did better on other teams. For example, Larry Brown. Larry Brown coached the Clippers in the early '90s. He actually got them to the playoffs in the early '90s. I think it was either '92 or '93, and he actually coached them to like I think their first winning record like since they had moved to LA. And he left after 2 years because he
Wow.
just thought like, I can't do this. This is insane. And another thing, well, first back on to what was his name? I was just saying his name, Larry Brown. He like proved he was a winning coach too. Like he coached the Indiana Pacers to several conference finals. He coached the 76ers led by Allen Iverson to the 2001 NBA Finals. And then he also coached the 2004 Detroit Pistons to the biggest upset in NBA history when they beat the LA Lakers of Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton all together on one team. But there's other reasons that team fell apart. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, again with the whole mishandling and like there being no infrastructure, they get the number 1 pick in 1988, and they draft this guy named Danny Manning, and they immediately mishandle his injuries. They rush him back repeatedly, and the team never fails or never successfully builds around him properly. So, you've got this guy who, again, like, even if they had built around him properly, like, I think his injuries would probably, the way they handled his injuries would have been like a problem. But then two, like, even if they had not rushed him back from injuries all the time, he wouldn't have done anything because, of course, they didn't build around him properly. He had a very poor team, and you know, they're the team is the worst in the league. They have outdated locker rooms. They have minimal support staff. From this time are comparing them to like their like facilities to college gyms, temporary practice spaces, and then it wouldn't have even been that bad, but it's like living in like a shelter, and then right next to you is a mansion, and that mansion is the LA Lakers.
Kind of rubbing it in your face. Is that
Yeah.
more what it was? Just kind of like you see the difference?
Yeah, and they're still winning title after title after title after title after title, and they're
But
they're not
your
even.
late 80s, you're talking about, you're talking about Showtime Lakers, you're talking about Magic and Bird. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah, that
that.
that isn't fair. That isn't fair. But even if you compare
No,
it to
I
the
mean, come
Lakers of
on.
the '90s too, when they weren't really
But
even
again,
winning
we had the
anything.
Bulls of the 90s then. So there's a lot of this that listen, I would love to hang all this on the old white racist guy, but like you
Yeah,
have to understand, you're coming into the league and you're dealing with Magic and Kareem and that era of the Lakers. And then you get a couple years with bad draft picks, and then all of a sudden it's Michael Jordan for most of the 90s, like, so listen, I understand, and you're not wrong, but he came in for a lot of reasons: financial, lack of facilities, lack of talent, and then on top of that, uh, playing against a decade of generational, like the greatest NBA players of all time. It's a rough day.
yeah, this is true, and you can't blame it all on him, but he did make bad personnel hirings too. Like, for example, Elgin Baylor, he was the GM of the Clippers from '86 to 2008. Um, he what's actually a fun thing. Donald Sterling did not know that Elgin Baylor had played in the NBA. He was played for the other team in LA, and he did not know he
Uh,
wasn't even an NBA
for a
player when he
while,
hired him.
for a little bit.
And so, like, I mean, Sterling is like, he's probably giving like the final say, but Elgin is making these decisions for like all the picks that they made like over the years, because they did get a few like pretty top heavy picks in the draft, and they really didn't they either didn't pan out, or um they didn't really have the support they needed. And all the while this is happening, while Sterling, the owner, is not really good. Sterling, the person, is also going through some stuff. In the '90s, there was like a bunch of lawsuits of him like refusing to rent to like minority tenants, racist comments, hostile work
Yeah.
environment. But this kind of stuff got swept under the rug back then because, if you didn't read it in the paper or you missed a news story that day, you didn't really know it was happening. And it wasn't really like a bombshell story at the time. You know, 90s are pretty much just kind of like, aside from like two playoff appearances, one that happened, actually one playoff appearance, I think it was a 92. Yeah, the 92 playoffs that they made, actually they had to be moved because they didn't Staples Center didn't exist until like 99 2000. So before that, before 99, they and the Lakers played in separate facilities. They played in the LA Memorial Coliseum, which I don't think hosts sporting events anymore, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah. But they couldn't play in LA. They actually had to play in Anaheim for one of their games because of the LA riots in '92. And I think they played the Utah Jazz in that series. And they ended up getting swept, from what I can remember, either swept or 3-1, because that was when the series was like a best of 5 back then. So you'd have to win 3 games. out of 5 to win. And but aside from that, they're pretty mediocre. In '98, they draft who I think is one of the more interesting stories in NBA history. He's this center named Michael Olowokandi. He
Yeah.
was just like this rich kid. He from like England, from what I remember. And he literally just thought, like, I have money, I'm tall. I think I could probably play in the NBA. And so he starts calling like colleges, because you could just do that back then. You could just call
Yeah.
colleges and tell them, like, "Hey, I think I'd be a good NBA player. I said I'd like to just be here." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And the colleges, apparently, like, one of the recruiters was like, "Yeah, like, I didn't even know if I was going to actually meet someone, or it was a prank call, until he got off the plane."
I
Uh,
mean, he's 6'10" or whatever he is. I mean, it's not like, I mean,
yeah,
he's a big dude.
yeah, and he uh he has this like hard time kind of like adjusting to the NBA. He starts in the lockout season, which they only played 50 games. So like, instead of like a normal season from like October to April, they play from February to April, 50 games, just kind of back to back to back to back to back to back. Made a lot of older players kind of tired, and it put a lot of miles on everyone. And again, there's no like support system. I think he went through like 2 coaches while he was there. And yeah, he only played for about 3, maybe 4 years before it was over. And 99 heading into 2000, they of course move into Staples Center, so they're sharing space with the Lakers. But 99 is also interesting because it begins what I consider to be not like a good in terms of winning era for the Clippers, but then also it's more of like this is entertaining to watch.
It's,
This is like,
well, also, it might be the first time since Sterling took over the team that there's even a little sense of optimism amongst the
yes.
fan base, where they're having, yeah, exactly. They're having fun. They're seeing, they don't think they're going to win the championship, but they're seeing things might be moving in the right direction finally.
To call that actually, going back to what you were saying earlier, I like to call this the attitude era of the Clippers. You've got your Lamar Odoms,
That's fair.
you've got your Elton Brands, who's a really good center that I thought was underrated in the NBA. You've got your blanking. Oh, the coach of the Clippers at this time, who pretty sure was Mike Dunleavy, unless I'm wrong. And they're not winning like a lot. I think the most they won was like 39 games in the 01-02 season, if I remember correctly, or the 02-03
Right.
season.
So still not making the playoffs, still not, there's no
But they're
aspirations
fun.
of, you know,
And
I don't mind it. I mean,
yeah, it's like something you would pay you would pay money to go see them play. That's
if you're
eh,
going to lose fun, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like let it be and we've had that. Like, again, I'm a Pirates fan. So, like, yeah, man, at least be exciting as you get your you lose 15-1, but, like, start a brawl, do something, where at least there's a story there. The Clippers were like that.
And some interesting changes happen in the early to mid 2000s. So in 2003, Lamar Odom is taken in a waiver. What do you call it? A offer sheet. He signs an offer sheet with the Miami Heat. The same year they draft Dwayne Wade, and he's on their team. He eventually gets traded to the Lakers a year later for Shaq. And in 2004, Kobe Bryant almost signs with the Clippers.
They say.
They say. I think it was more of like the only place I think he was going, because I know he wanted to just be away from Shaq, but the only place I really think he like considered was Chicago, because of the whole MJ thing, and they were close. But I don't think he ever really would have gone to the Clippers. And I think it's because I know Jerry West mentioned it in a podcast he was on a couple years before he died. And he basically said that um, you do not want to be there. You will not be Kobe Bryant there. Like, you will be miserable there. And I think it's probably for the best he didn't go. I just don't think things would have turned out the same if he went to the Clippers.
Yeah, but he might have also been the catalyst that, like LeBron was when he went back to Cleveland.
This
Like,
is
not
true.
the Cavs are a terrible team, but you get that, you get that shot. You get that thing where, like, it's enough for the fans to be excited, and the fans are excited. They want the owner to spend a little more money, so you get a couple pieces, make it work. Miami made their own team up. That was them all just saying, we're just gonna all move down there and play in Miami together, and we're gonna. That was the start of the. You don't want to say collusion, but that was when NBA players almost they started dictating where they wanted to go, and it ruined the league for a little while because you had teams that were just getting stacked, and it made it no fun.
Forming
Like,
super teams.
wasn't entertaining. Even for
Yeah.
the Clippers, you can lose, but you're getting blown out by 40 points. You know,
I think they call it the
the
player
Heat.
empowerment era. That's what they're
There
calling
you
it.
go.
Yeah. Because even because when I think of LeBron, going back to Cleveland, I think of the fact that he didn't sign a multi-year contract. I think he signed like a 1 year plus one, or like a 2 year plus
Yeah, it
one
was 2+1,
bonus
I
that
think.
he could, like, yeah, it's like a renegotiating thing. Because like that's the thing, like he wanted to put like kind of leverage on his side so that he can go, like, if this doesn't work out, I'm leaving again.
How dare you? How dare you, sir? He wanted to give back to his community. It was important to him to go back to Cleveland to make things right.
I do think that.
He didn't even care
Um,
about the money. He'd have played for free. I know it.
yeah. Um, I do wonder if Kobe, I feel like Kobe probably would have done that nowadays, because I know he signed the bigger contracts when he was a Laker, like at least his last couple of years, or last couple of contracts, because I know he signed like a 7 year one, which I don't think I've seen a player recently sign a 7 year contract. I just don't think they want to lock themselves
No,
into
not
that kind
anymore.
of,
Now
yeah.
you're 3 years, 4 years max. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's not just basketball. That's they're starting to do that in pretty much across the board in
Yeah, the only one
professional
I
sports. But
think,
again,
sorry, I was just gonna say the only one I think is maybe baseball, right?
well, so the way baseball contracts are structured, you get your rookie deal, which is 3 years, you're 3 to 5. You can do arbitration after the third year. But like the Pirates have a guy named Paul Skeens who won the Cy Young. Paul Skeens is a generational pitcher. He's going to win every award forever. There's also a 0% chance that he ever re-signs with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So he's trapped there for 2 more years. Thankfully, because he can't wait to leave already. But what that does is it locks him in for there. Now the deal after that, it comes back to say you can go up to 7 years in baseball still for that second deal, but like coming out of school, like the NFL has that too, where you have to have rookie deals are structured differently than once you're a veteran, you have a little more flexibility with what's going on there, and even then there's a league minimum and a bunch of other factors. But length of contract, I think, because of the way the culture has kind of changed, going back to me taking my talents to South Beach era, like people don't want to be they don't want to be tied down for that long. Nobody does. Even if you know you're going to try to play your entire career there, and Pittsburgh's been lucky enough to have guys like Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux and Ben Roethlisberger that were lifers. They played here their entire career. That's becoming more and more rare, and it's because you have the opportunity now to hop every 2 years, and you can see how the market is changing and how much more money is involved in that, or at least potential money. Even if you re-sign with the same team, you have the opportunity to renegotiate that deal at a higher number. As the salary cap goes up, as you are killing it, as your numbers go up, you're going to make more money. So Why would you want to lock yourself into a deal that you can't get out of when you know you could do better faster?
This is true. Oh, and another point to the whole Kobe Bryant thing, an interesting thing about him, he's actually tied into the Clippers another way because, well, late 2000s, Clippers actually have a bit of like a bit of a rising era. The 05-06 season, they make the playoffs and they make the second round for the first time. Almost made the third round. They almost took out the Steve Nash Suns in 7 games, but they fell and they end up not spending any money to make the team better. But they do have this really good player they drafted a couple years ago called Sean Livingston. And I don't know if you've seen or heard about this injury, but in the next season, he has one of the worst injuries in like sports history, where
Was
he
that the
tears,
leg
I think,
popping out of the?
yeah, like it turned,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
That was not fun.
yeah. It sucks too because like they like were considering like strongly considering like amputating the thing off because like they just didn't think they could save it, and the Clippers were actually going to make the playoffs that year, but they lost by like 2 games to the Golden State Warriors, who made
That
the
was the
playoffs for
Sean Mullen Golden State Warriors. So Sean Mullen was out there just slinging it from 3. You know, they were a tough offensive team, weirdly, because Golden State came out of nowhere too. But that was just they were scoring, and that was something that was different in that era.
Yeah, that was a great team put together by him. Like, because he was the GM from like early 2000s to like late 2010s. He actually drafted Steph too. Yeah, and so they kind of fall apart after that. Couple pieces like go away. By 2008, Baylor steps down. 09, Blake Griffin is drafted, and everyone thinks, "Oh, okay, this is it. This is the guy that's gonna bring us to out of mediocrity." And then like the
You knew
last
he was
game of the
going to.
preseason,
As soon as you saw Blake in that Wayfair commercial, you knew that guy had star power. You knew that he was going to be just what he needed.
but we'd had to
And
wait
Kelly
a year.
Clarkson will be around too.
We had to wait a year though because he breaks his kneecap in the last like game of the preseason. So he doesn't debut into the 2010-2011 season, but it's still an amazing season. Clippers do great. They have DeAndre Jordan by this point. They have a few other good pieces. Blake is the first rookie since Yao Ming to make the All-Star team and win Rookie of the Year. And yeah, only 8 years with him, unfortunately.
When you're that big, though, I mean that was like George Murison big. That was like
Oh,
awkward big. Like you knew they were going to have some problems. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You're like, well, I mean, listen, Sean Bradley played 10 years in the league at 7'7" or whatever like that. You know, and you had guys at that era, especially. You had guys. I mean, they were only 7 foot, like David Robinson and Tim Duncan for the Spurs,
Yes.
that had amazing Hall of Fame careers. That's not really fair. They're 2 of the best, 7-footers in the history of the game. But
Really just depends
you
on
know,
like back and foot stuff too.
yeah, absolutely.
And oh yeah, I swear I was gonna tie Kobe back into this. But
Clippers.
he's on the Lakers. They're trying to, give him a chance to make one last playoff run after he won 2 rings without Shaq. And they go for a trade where they're gonna send Chris Paul to the Lakers. And that trade ends up getting vetoed by the NBA because they own the team that Chris Paul was on at the time, the Hornets, which shouldn't be a thing you can do, but I guess is. And he later gets traded to the Los Angeles Clippers because I guess they had a better deal, even though both were about the same in terms of quality, in terms of players. But Chris Paul goes to the Clippers. I saw a video on this where somebody basically said, "Why have one LA team be good when you can have 2?" And I think they're right.
Hypothetically.
And they start to they're really good. They make the playoffs in 2012, 2013, 2014, but then
And that's the first time in how long? When was the last time before that run? It's been a while, right?
2006. So yeah, and then in 2014, that's when the phone calls get leaked of like Sterling talking to his mistress, the one that he had in public, just like while he's still married to his wife. Just like she took a picture with Magic Johnson, and basically he says in the phone call, "It doesn't make me comfortable that you're associating with these people." And I just don't understand, because like you own an NBA team full of people that are African American. I just don't understand that. But and I'm pretty sure his mistress was also African American. So I don't understand that point. But,
she was
mixed.
People didn't.
She was mixed. She's mixed. She was mixed. Okay, but people didn't react positively
Listen,
to
that
it.
matters to old. That matters to old white people. There's a difference.
Okay.
No, I mean, if memory serves, it wasn't so much that, like you said, it was kind of an open secret where his mistress was out, gallivanting around town. All Donald Sterling was mad about is that she was hanging out with black guys.
Yeah,
like it made him look bad that she was hanging around black guys, and that was the only kind of like line in the sand he had. Go out, go to the clubs, go have fun, go have your guy on the sides, whatever stuff. But no brothers.
I also love this point that somebody else mentioned in a video that I watched about this whole thing, where his wife was trying to, because of course they tried to like everyone like reacted negatively to this. The current like commissioner of the NBA banned him from the NBA and from having a team. Somebody else took over, and his wife tried to take ownership of the team.
To be fair, like it nothing to do with the actual affair or his personal life. This had to do with him getting caught making very, very racist comments to his mistress, and yeah. So it was that. Obviously, in a league that is predominantly African American, that might be a problem. Listen, racism exists, but you can't say that out loud. Even back in the early 2000s, where it was. Well, I hate to say, well, not to get political, but I guess you can again. You can be racist again.
Yeah.
It all works in circles here, America.
And his wife tries to get control of the team, and she basically says that he has like Alzheimer's, and somebody commented to that, and they said the fact that like, oh, okay, I didn't know Alzheimer's made you racist, and then like if somebody else responded to that by saying no, he just like he forgot that all men are created equal.
Well, that too. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing about losing your mind is you forget, like you lose, the censor part. That's one of the first things that goes when you get old and have Alzheimer's disease. You lose that filter. You forget you're supposed to think that thing. You're not supposed to say that thing, and it cost him several $billion, right? His wife does end up selling the team.
Yes,
I think for like $2 billion or something like that, right? Yeah. So he tried to block it, couldn't block it. Apparently, he was too racist or too old or too Alzheimer's-y. But had to sell the team. Also, the NBA was making him sell the team.
Yeah. Right? He didn't have a choice. Okay. Yeah. And the owner that owns the team now, the man who bought it, was the former CEO of Microsoft, Steve Ballmer.
I was going to say Apple. Yeah, I was going to say it was. I forgot which one. That guy.
And he seemed like a huge like Clipper fan. It's funny too. One of the people who was also in contention to buy it was Magic Johnson, which would have been even funnier because the whole thing started because she was in a picture with Magic.
He had a conglomeration of people. He had like an actual like thing, like where they were there. Like that was a legitimate thing. That's not just him saying, "Oh, maybe I'll buy the team." He had actual investors like lined up to do this.
If only. And so Steve Ballmer buys the Clippers. He's owned them since 2014.
Listen, the Clippers are so bad, they'd have brought Magic's AIDS back. He dodged a bullet there or whatever. He's still with us. God bless him. He's a national treasure. You don't want to get that Clipper stank all over him.
Well, I think Well, one, Magic probably has like better medication than like half like the population, but yeah, I think he probably had what we have now in 1998, most likely.
It's one of my favorite South Park episodes where they were trying to find the cure to AIDS because Cartman gives Kyle AIDS as a joke, and they go through the thing and literally they're putting money in a blender and drinking it, and that's the Magic Johnson cure for AIDS. Is
I did like how like the NBA like players kind of like responded to the whole Donald Sterling thing too. They like turned their like
well, what are they going to
shirts and their
say? They
jerseys
have
like
to.
in and
You
out
can't.
basically. No, I just meant
Yeah,
like the
you can't.
response, like the protest basically. Like they turned their jerseys and like all their logos and stuff like inside out, and like league wide everyone started doing it. And then like that
Right.
was pretty much what forced it to like go a bit further. Like, and then they were just kind of considered like not playing like a playoff game too. But then the team got sold, and they were like, "All right, let's play." And
I
yeah,
remember that. Yeah, it was they were going to sit out the playoffs, and that's where kind of like it kind of crested, which is good.
yeah,
I it shouldn't have probably taken that, for change to happen, but it
yeah.
is a good reminder that there is strength in numbers, and when you see injustice, it is incumbent upon you and your teammates to speak out against that injustice, lest we keep having to deal with old racist white guys.
I'm sure that's over. I'm sure that'll never happen again.
Well, Donald Sterling was the last old racist white guy, so thankfully
Yeah, yeah,
we're talking about things that are way, way in the past of America. So
yeah. I'm sure
thankfully
there's nobody
we
else
can.
who wanted to own a sports team at one point that didn't get it, and then decided to take that out on everyone else. But yeah,
I forgot that he tried to buy a sports team.
uh,
Could have
and
bought
the
could have bought the
Clippers.
Clippers.
Probably could have, honestly. I think he did want an NFL team though. I don't think he was interested in basketball.
It wasn't the Redskins though. I forget what team it was.
I think he wanted. I want to say the Jets. I want to say the Jets.
I it it. I think it was. It was the Jets or the Bills. It was AFC East for sure. But
Yeah,
Christ, you're gonna make
and
me
then he
look this
gave
up.
up trying
Probably
to do the Cowboys. Yeah, but
it was the Bills. Okay, we
it
were
was the
right. It was
Bills.
AFC East. I knew it had to be. That was same time. That was 2014. Says the Google machine.
Okay, okay.
He made an actual bid, I guess, but he tried at one point to buy the Patriots, and then he tried to buy like a USFL team back in the day, and never materialized, which is why the Bills are still a franchise. Congratulations, Buffalo. You dodged a bullet for the first time.
Yeah, you may have lost the NBA
I enjoy your
team, but you
wings.
still got NFL.
You still have a quarterback that's never going to win a championship, so that's pretty sweet, though. But he's good. He looks really, really good while you guys continue to not win a championship.
All right. Well, I just want to say some closing remarks on the Clippers. I want to say their
Absolutely.
curse is probably over, but then that aspiration thing came out with Pablo Torre reporting it, and I think the NBA's kind of just like tried to sweep that under the rug, but I don't know if that's going to go away anytime soon. So, yeah.
I mean, you hope so, but like again, you from Blake quality land. I mean, they've their trades now, like it's you want to hope that it's done. They haven't, their last time making a run in the postseason, they blew. They're up 3-0. Like, did it like a 3-0 lead or something like that? Like in 2020, like.
Yeah, that was their first run with like Kawhi and Paul George. They blew a 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets.
Ugh. You think it's over though? You think they're on the other side? Finally, the curse of the Bambino is gone.
Say gone. I definitely don't think gone, but I think like I actually think like they're going to be very bad. They were very bad they're very bad this season, and I think they're going to be bad next season because they just traded James Harden. Kawhi is playing like a lot more than he was previously, but they don't own any of their picks for the next couple of years. And if they try to do a rebuild again, gonna have trouble without the picks. So be interesting to see what they do next.
I'll be watching. It'll be fun. People like watching train wrecks. Sometimes, like you said, it's more entertaining to watch the train wreck than it is to watch, the Ferrari like purring along the highway.
All right. Well, I think I'll wrap up that episode of An Idiot's Guide to Sports History. I'd like to thank you again, Mr. Spiffy Sean Styles, for being on this episode.
This was fun, man.
Yeah. Still trying to figure out the format, how I want this one to go. So I appreciate you just kind of letting me ramble on for a bit at times.
Listen, I'm a lot more free form than a lot of guests are going to be. So don't let that be an indication of how to format what you want to do.
Okay.
A lot of potential here, man.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who's listening. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Cool.